Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, In the Kitchen with Carly. Thank you all so much for your support on my intro video. I really appreciate the likes, the comments, the subscribes. Thank you again, and I'm so glad to have you back. Today's episode is my first cooking episode. Super excited about it. I decided for the first few, I'm gonna keep the recipe simple. I'm still learning how to edit, film, post, all that good stuff. So bear with me, quality may not be that great, but I'm getting there. Today, I'm gonna be sharing my dad's famous rosemary bread. It is a family favorite. It is so good, easy to make, and I really wanna share the recipe with you guys. So I've got all my ingredients set up over here. I'll quickly go through them with you, and then I'll adjust the camera so that you can see what I'm doing. I've got my, can you see it? I've got my Dutch oven over here, a tea towel, which you'll need afterwards. I've got a wooden spoon and a knife, my cutting board, my rosemary, my measuring utensils. So I have teaspoons, tablespoons, and I also have cup and a half a cup. I've got some Himalayan sea salt, bread flour. I also have all-purpose flour here as well. I'm hoping I have enough bread flour, but just in case I'm a little short, I did get the bread flour or the all-purpose flour out as well. Also a large mixing bowl. So, and almost forgot my wine, or what's left of it. Can't forget that. So I'm gonna adjust the camera, that way you guys can see up close what I'm doing. All right, guys, we're back. Thanks for your patience. I got the camera adjusted and set up. You guys are real up close and personal. My kitchen doesn't have a whole lot of counter space for my camera to fit, so you guys will really be all up in here seeing what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and get started. I am gonna go ahead and put my hair back just so we don't get hair in the bread. And we'll get started. So I'll kind of go over the ingredients that we're going to be working with, the measurements, and then I'll also post in the description below so that you guys can see the clear recipe right now. The first thing we are going to do is mix all the ingredients together. So we're going to start with the bread flour. You are definitely supposed to use bread flour. I do have all-purpose flour because I don't think I'm going to have 3 cups of flour, bread flour, so we'll give it a try. But you need 3 cups of bread flour. And you're going to mix it all in your bowl. One. Oh, I might have enough. I might. I'm just kind of guesstimating too. Doing it by eye, you know. Baking is supposed to be a little bit more exact, but this is pretty close. Yeah, I did have 3. Awesome. Did have 3 full cups. So we're going to do that. You need 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I like Himalayan salt. You can use any type of salt that you would like. So we need 1 1/4 teaspoon. I have my cute little lemon measuring cups. Thanks, Maria. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and measure out. 1. I don't want to overdo the salt, so I am going to be more exact on that. So 1 1/4 teaspoon. Got a little too much salt on there. Dust some of that off. All right. Perfect. All right, now we need to add in our active dry yeast. So you can buy this at Publix or any grocery store. I know up north they use Kroger, things like that. It is over in the flour and baking section. In Publix here in Florida, it's kind of right up above. It's hard to find, but if you find like the cornstarch and the flour, it's kind of up on that top shelf there. So let me get my scissors to open this up. This we only need 1/4 teaspoon. So you don't need a whole lot of active dry yeast, but it definitely makes a difference. So I have my 1/4 teaspoon here. We're gonna go ahead and add that in. And this does last, so seal it back up well, and you can definitely, I like to put mine in the fridge, but definitely keep it, it does not go bad. All right. Now I am going to chop up my rosemary. So I grow my own rosemary. If you buy it in a pack, you only need a couple of sprigs. I just cut a few here. You want to wash it really well, make sure there's no bugs or gunk on there. And I'm just going to peel the leaves back from the stem, and we're going to chop it up real nice and fine to throw into our bread mix. I do leave some of the leaves a little bit bigger. You know, it doesn't have to be minced, but I would definitely chop it up pretty well. You don't want huge thick pieces. My rosemary tends to grow a little bit thicker leaves. Some of the store-bought rosemary, they're not so thick, so you don't have to chop them up as much, but I would say maybe, you know, just estimate out. I got 3 sprigs here. It's probably going to give me, you know, a handful of rosemary. So we'll go from there. Your hands smell so good when you're picking the rosemary off. It's just such a good smell. All right. Let's give this some chopping. it is kind of late at night. I am hosting dinner tomorrow, so I decided kind of last minute that I wanted to make this bread for my dinner guests tomorrow, and it does need to sit overnight, at least I would say 16 to 18 hours to really let that yeast and the dough rise. So here we are, it's 10:30 at night, making bread. Don't knock over the wine. Oh, don't even have a whole lot left. Okay, so as you can see here, chopped it up. It's probably about a palm full. Once it's all chopped, we'll add that in. It smells delicious. Got a little stem in there. Don't want that. A couple other leaves I'm just going to get off here. All right. So next we want to add in our water. We're going to stir it up really good. You want about 1.5 cups of water. We're going to mix it in there with our wooden spoon. So I'm going to go over to my sink and get a cup of water. All right, so like I said, you want about 1.5 cups. Pour it on in there. Got my spoon. I find that if it's wooden, it doesn't tend to stick as much. It mixes a little bit better, but it's up to you. Just go ahead and mix it on up. It's gonna get real pasty. That's what you want. If you find that it's a little bit too dry, I mean, mix it for a while, but if you find after that it's just not enough water, add in little by little. I would say maybe like a teaspoon at a time. You don't want to overdo it on the water. You really want to form a nice dough. Also make sure you're mixing it in really well. You want to knead it in with the spoon. That way all that active yeast gets mixed in there really well. Right, and as I don't know if you guys can see this, I'll hold it up, but I'm finding that it's a little bit too dry, so there's still a good amount of flour in here that hasn't been mixed in. I'm going to add in just a little bit more water. That way it's not too dry. Okay, just a tad. There we go. So it's going to still be a little sticky. That's okay. My glass bowl, it tends not to stick, you know, too bad. All right, so a nice dough ball is forming here at the bottom. And we are going to let this whole thing sit overnight. Oops, I'm going away from the camera. So if you see here, you got a nice dough ball forming there at the bottom. And we are going to want to let this mixture sit and rise overnight. So I got it there. Let me just try to get some of this extra dough off. I can already smell the rosemary. It smells really good. Okay, I'm going to get a spatula here just to scrape it down from the sides. Just like that. Kind of really get it into a nice ball at the bottom of your bowl. All right, guys, so it's looking good. The dough should be, you know, it should be, as you can see, it's still kind of sticky, but it's not super dry. So you do want to make sure you have enough water on there. You don't want it to be soupy. You do want it to be, if you can see how I'm, you know, testing it out here, you want it to stick to your finger, but not too much. You don't want it really sticky. So that's perfect. Let me rinse my hand. We're going to cover it with our tea towel. Okay, so we're going to cover the whole bowl. Let me move this so that you can see a little bit better. We're going to go ahead and cover the bowl with our tea towel, and you're just going to let this sit overnight, 16 to 18 hours. Like I said, in the morning, it will double in size. So you know that it's ready when it has doubled in size. It'll pretty much fill up the whole bowl. I'll be back tomorrow to show you what it looks like, and we will knead it out and then transfer it into our Dutch oven, and that way it'll be ready for tomorrow night. Stay tuned. Okay guys, we're back. This is day 2 of the rosemary bread, and we are going to go ahead and take a look here. Oh yeah, it looks nice. Okay, so as you can see, our dough has doubled in size. This has been sitting under the tea towel for about, let's see, it's been probably about 18 hours now. I let it sit overnight, and we are gonna go ahead, it definitely feels great. We're gonna go ahead and knead it, gently knead it, let it sit for another hour before we bake it. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I knead the bread. We're gonna make sure we cover our surface with flour. So I have my leftover bread flour from yesterday. I'm gonna go ahead and cover our surface here pretty well. Don't want it to stick. And you don't want to over knead your bread. So the bread can definitely be over kneaded, and that would cause it to be more dense. You only want to gently knead it just a little bit. I'm actually going to use a spatula here to help me get this out of the bowl. We're going to dump it right onto our flour. It smells delicious. I can smell the rosemary in there. All right, so we got the dough. We're gonna knead it here. And I need a little bit of flour on my hands too, so just take it, knead it a couple of times. All right, we got it into our ball. Now, I'm not a professional, but you want it, you know, a nice little dough ball back in there. We're gonna recover for another hour. In the meantime, we're gonna preheat the oven to 475, and you're going to stick your Dutch oven without its lid into the oven so that it can preheat with the oven. So that's what I'm gonna do next, and I'll see you when the bread is ready. Okay guys, we're back for the final steps. So it's been about an hour since we kneaded the dough, and as you can see, it rose again, so it's a nice little fluffy ball. When you poke it, it should be nice and fluffy. It looks ready to go, so I am going to, the oven was preheated to 475 with the Dutch oven in it. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Dutch oven out. We're gonna coat the bottom with cooking spray. You don't want the dough to stick. Then we are going to go ahead and plop our dough right in there. All right, there we go. You can hear it sizzling, it's nice and hot. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure it's sitting at the bottom. We're gonna put the lid back on and place it in the oven. This is gonna bake at 475 for about 30 minutes. Then we're gonna remove the lid, bake it probably another 10. Just, you want the top to be nice and golden brown, and you'll be all finished. It's been about 30 minutes. We're gonna check on the bread and take off the lid and bake it for another few minutes. So stay tuned, let's see what the bread looks like. Oh yeah, it's looking nice. I don't know if you can see that, it's a little golden. So we're gonna take off the lid, put it back in, and let it bake for probably another 10-15 minutes. I'll keep an eye on it. I just want the top to be nice and golden brown. So we'll go ahead and set the timer. The bread is ready. We left it in there for an extra 10 minutes just to get the top nice and brown and crispy. We're ready to take it out. Look how good that looks. Ooh, yeah. So you want to flip this over on a cooling rack if you have it. I would let it sit for a few minutes, put it on the cooling rack, and it's ready to serve. Hope you enjoy.